All right, 97.7 Outlaw Radio FM listeners, you already know what time it is. We are live with the one, the only. We got Black C of the RBL Posse right here live on the line. How are you doing this evening?
Hey, what's up with you, man? Much love, much love.
I gotta say, first and foremost, man, I've been a fan for many, many years, man. So just thank you for years of amazing hip hop.
Appreciate it, man. Appreciate the support.
But I gotta ask you, man, like taking you back to the beginning of your career, like what actually inspired you to actually get into the music industry initially?
Just being around, people like IMP. When I got out of, I was in a boys' ranch, like a juvenile detention center. And when I got out, a lot of my guys was going to jail, and I immediately, came home to listening to I'm Rolling, Scandalous, stuff like that by IMP, and also D-Loc and Richie Rich, Brother Broski, and them from 415. It just got me, But I do got to give a shout out to my boy Budweiser. He the one that kind of talked me into going to buy equipment and to get behind him. And I say all those three things is really what it was. I say Krugner, 415, and my boy Budweiser, urging me to go, eager me on to go buy some equipment to help his rap career, and that's what started it all.
Hey, man, it sounds like, by the sounds of it, he most definitely gave you some phenomenal advice, man, because, like, look at your career now.
Right, man. It definitely worked out, and it's the trip, because I was just trying to learn the music just to try to help him out, and I was mainly the beat man, and all of a sudden I got on the microphone, and, a lot of my guys just liked it. They were just, like my boys, they was like, man, you got it, so it ended up working out for me.
And also, as well, I read that actually one of the first songs you ever wrote was actually titled "What About My Ends." There's another word to that, but obviously, I'm too white to be saying that word. But I gotta ask you, man, like, what's the story behind that amazing track?
And it was a track that I actually put together. Back then, I kind of got that game from guys like Too Short. He was like, when you get the name in the neighborhood drug dealers and stuff like that, they like when you put their name in a song, they gonna ride around playing it. They got big stereo systems. They got the 412, 415s or whatever, Zapco, Zeus amps in they trunk. So you mention their names, they gonna take it, to other cities, other neighborhoods, and bump it, on their stereo system. So I kind of took that concept and made a song called "What About My Niggas," and I mentioned everybody in my neighborhood, and they were so hyped about it that it worked exactly how I thought it would. You know what I mean? They took it to different neighborhoods, playing it, telling everybody to, listen to it. Look, he mentioned me right here in the song, and it worked like a charm. You know what I mean? I ended up growing a fan base.
And I have to ask, man, because I think that was, like, actually before the RBL Posse days. Like, is that song, like, floating around the internet or at all? Like, for the fans that haven't heard it, like, where can they actually check that out?
Nah, actually, well, it's a few people that probably got tapes. We was strictly cassettes back then, so if it is around, I don't know if it's on YouTube or anything like that. I do have copies of it, but it's on my 4-track. I have to actually find the 4-track player. One of my guys was just talking to me about it, like trying to find the earlier songs that we did, and the hit and Mr. C first song that he did, his squad, New Jack that we did back in the days. I'm thinking about trying to, because I'm releasing a book later on this year, I'm thinking about pulling a lot of that stuff out and actually getting it ready for the little documentary that I plan on putting together, man. Just, playing some of the stuff, letting people hear some of the earlier stuff. You know what I mean? Good or bad, just letting them hear it, whether they think the music was good, bad, or whatever. Just putting it out there just so they can hear the stuff before RBL Posse was even formed. You know what I mean? And we got a lot of music that we did all through from 89 to like 91 that we was making before we even went in the studio professionally. So, yeah, I'm thinking about trying to go find a 4-track player, some old vintage one that I can actually play it, because I bought a lot of them over the years, and they like played high. They made it play like at a high pitch, to where I couldn't get it to play right. So hopefully I might try to get on there and find one of those Yamaha 4-track machines that I actually recorded on. Hopefully we can find one around somewhere now that the internet is up and running, and it's easier to find stuff.
And when you actually mentioned a book and a documentary. I was wondering, before we actually leave that topic, like, what can our listeners actually expect from that book and documentary? Because I know you probably can't let too many cats out of the bag, but if you can, like, tell us a bit more about those projects, and of course, when can we actually expect those?
The book or the documentary, we're going to base it off the book. We ain't, I can't get too much into that. I'm planning on sitting down and working that out with my boy Gazi over at Empire. We're going to do something like a little 20, 30-minute little special that's going to be part of the series. It's going to be part of the 5-part series that's part of the Frisco Gang Wars thing that jumped off back in the day, back from 88 to like 90, 91, when the turf wars was jumping off in San Francisco. And but as far as the book, yeah, I'm dropping that later on. Hopefully, I can get it out around August, September. I'm proofreading it right now. It's all done up. Right now, the title that I'm sitting on is called Part of Survival, and it's just based on my life from the block to the booth. You know what I mean? That's basically what it is, from the block to the booth, for Part of Survival. Just talk about me leading up to getting into the music, to me doing the music, and life after Mr. C, stuff like that. So it's all done. I'm just getting pictures and stuff together to go in between each chapters, and just getting a few people, getting some quotes from some industry people who was a part of my life, from Enhancer to TC to even radio personalities, Big Von, Chewy Gomez, and them that was down here, stuff like that. So it's all done up. I'm just putting it together, and I got a soundtrack basically that's going with it that I'm almost finished up with. I'm about 12 songs in so far. I'm gonna do about 20 and take about a good maybe 12 to 13 out of the 20, and put together a nice little soundtrack for the book.
And also, like, as we already know, you are one of the founders of the RBL Posse, but I was wondering, how did yourself, Mr. C, and Hitman actually get connected? Like, what's the story behind the iconic RBL Posse?
Well, Mr. C came in later on. He came in like right before I went in and recorded the album. He wasn't around when we was doing our earlier stuff from like 89 to 91. He wasn't around. He came in probably like towards, I would say like either the middle of 91 to towards the end of 91. I say almost around like August, September of 91. He came up there, and I met him through my friend T-Lo. He was a guy, rapper, who came out back then around 93, 94. Herm Lewis, Herm from Black Power Production. He didn't want to do our intros. He used to do our intros on our albums, on Lesson to Be Learned. Herm is the one that come in, do the intro, speak a little bit of positivity for the people. And T-Lo gave us the name, and he also brought Mr. C up there. He gave RBL Posse the name, Ruthless by Law. And I was actually trying to go to the studio with him. And, he was procrastinating, didn't want to go in the studio and record. And he was just like, I got this guy, it's my girlfriend's brother. All he do is rap. I think you and him will hit it off good. All he do is sit in the house and write raps. He said, man, I think you should probably work with him. So he brought him up to my studio, and sure enough, I had him make a song called Hit Squad New Jack. We was called the Hit Squad at the time before we found out Eric Sermon had that name. And, we ended up making a song called Hit Squad New Jack. He spit a bunch of lyrics on it. I fell in love with his rap style. And it was like, yeah, I'm taking it to the studio. We was in the studio probably about a month or two later, recording the album. So it pretty much happened that fast. Yeah, and as far as Hitman, he came along later on. He never was part of the group. We just kind of let people think that. Well, it was always just me and Mr. C. But we had everybody, pretty much we were just setting up Hitman's album for his solo stuff. He was never part of RBL, but everybody kind of thought it, so we just never said nothing about it. And but I met him through one of my young homies up on the block. He had moved up there in 93, and he was up there from a rival neighborhood, so the guys used to be chasing him home and, messing with him and his brother and them. And I found out that he can rap, and I had my young guy bring him up there. Like, man, bring him up here now. He was like, he's scared to come up here because the guys was trying to, picking on him and was chasing him home and all that. And I was like, dude, he all good. Just let him know that black, is there, 93, and, I loved him. It's just like, oh, man, I'm trying to get you in the studio as soon as possible. And he was just like, man, just let me know. So I had him come down to my studio, and the rest was history. He ended up getting on the R94 album, making his debut. And from there, we set up this solo Creep album, and it took off like wildfire. And, the rest was history.
Hey, man, you know what? You three had phenomenal chemistry as well while doing records, man. RBL Posse will live on forever, in my personal opinion.
Appreciate it. I'm steady trying to keep the torch lit for us.
And also, the RBL Posse's first release is actually the self-produced Don't Give Me No Bammer, which is probably one of the most famous West Coast hip-hop joints of all time, that actually came out on In a Minute Records. I was wondering, what's the story behind that iconic track? Because back then, man, not a lot of people were really doing things all by themselves.
Yeah, when we got over to In a Minute, it was already kind of taken off. I had already sold pretty much about 6,000 cassettes out the trunk. This was cassettes, was hot CDs wasn't out back then. So I pressed up about 1,000. They took off. I went out there to In a Minute Records. There actually was two companies in one. It was Elliot Blaine. He was running the music people, the distribution side of the company, and Jason Blaine was running In a Minute Records, the actual record label. So we went out there for distribution, and we bought him 1,000 copies. He had just signed Totally Insane. I think IMP was on the label, and we was trying to get on. He was acting a little hesitant about it, and we gave him left 1,000 cassettes on consignment. We had already handed out maybe 200-300, because sometime back then when they used to press up, they overpress or underpress, so they overpress maybe like 300 units, so they gave us like 1,300. We took 1,000 to him, passed out 300. They sold like wildfire. Everybody was calling the distributor trying to get more of our cassettes. He ended up getting those out, and he told us, I need about 5,000 more. They're going pretty good. And I went to one of my homies on the block and asked for all some money, because I didn't have the money at the time to press up to 5,000. I had a few dollars, but I didn't want to use all my money from the 1,000 copies that I had just got, because he gave me like $5 to pay. So I had the 5,000, but I just didn't want to invest all that into pressing up there. So I asked my boy Ed. He went half with me, gave me half the money. I pressed up 5,000, brought them over there to In a Minute Records, and the City Hall. Them sold out within the next week, and Jason ended up calling us in and was just like, yeah, bro, instead of y'all pressing them up, it's taking quite a bit of time for y'all to come back. He's like, how about I give y'all 10,000 to sign? I'm gonna pay y'all for these. I owe y'all $5 a tape on these. So I give y'all the 25,000. I'll give you an extra 10 to sign. And I thought that was sweet at the time. Looking back at it now, it's like, what the hell? Why did I just sign for 10,000? But he was just like, with that added on to the money he was willing to pay us on that deal, that 35,000 was real sweet from us at the time. Especially, I'm sitting around only with a couple thousand in my pocket, Mr. C. We didn't have no money. It was just like we was waiting for something to kick off. And plus, we was doing it for fun, so we was just like, oh, you want to give us 10,000 for this? Man, yeah, throw it to us. We don't care. We can go make more music. We're not worried about it. And and ended up taking off and blowing up. We ended up signing, and the rest was pretty much history from there with that too. In a minute, I will say Jason did help us out. He got us out there. With his help, we did, even though he didn't pay us what he was supposed to pay us, he did get us out there to where we was able to travel the world a little bit, because he got us out there to a lot of one-stops, a lot of mom-and-pop shops. At the time, the SoundScan wasn't jumping off, so he got us to a lot of places like in the Midwest, St. Louis, Kansas City, a lot of hot spots. Detroit was a hot spot for us, all up north, Seattle, Portland. So it worked out for us, you know what I mean? We had to fight for, our royalties and our mechanical royalties, but it ended up working out for us, man, in the end. We did get the notoriety we wanted.
And I gotta say as well, when actually when Canada actually first started legalizing weed down here, man, the first joint I actually smoked was actually to that song, man. I don't know, it's always been one of my smoking songs. I haven't smoked weed in a while now, but when I do smoke a joint, that's my go-to.
Right. Yeah, at that time too, I think the only people that had weed songs out too was Cypress Hill, and I think MC Pooh had a song out a couple of years prior to called "Fucking with Dank." You know what I mean? They were the only ones that was actually out, but we actually put out that just like took off on a whole nother level. You know what I mean? It was kind of unheard of for weed songs to kind of get played on the radio, stuff like that. So we shot the video, did a radio version for us, and they played it locally. I don't know if they played it anywhere else, but we got some play around here. So yeah, Bama Weed just took off, man. And I already knew it was a hit when I made it, because before I made it, it took off locally in our neighborhood. We had a song before I did it and switched it to Bama Weed. It was called Bama Joint. Don't give me no Bama Joint. We don't smoke that shit in Hunters Point. Hunters Point is where we from, our little section. So I had put it out. This was the version I had without Mr. C on it. I had it with two of my other guys, and that was part of my solo stuff that I made. But yeah, it took off. So I knew once it got done professionally and we put it out nationwide like Jason did, I knew it was going to take off. And sure enough, he made it a single, and yeah, they rocked out.
And I also read as well that actually California, when California legalized marijuana, the local news stations would actually reference that song. I want to ask, like, after all these years, how does it feel to actually just know that, you know, your home state is still actually repping that song after like 30 years?
Man, it feels good, you know, because even right now locally, you hear people who don't even, I mean, it's part of the language, it's part of the vocabulary now. Now if you see somebody with bunk weed, they be like, oh man, that's Bama. You know, just it's automatic. You know what I mean? Now they don't just say "I'm bunk." You know, they might use Reggie. I know in some Midwest Southern places they like call it Reggie, but out here on the West Coast, it's straight Bammer. If it's bunk weed, that's the first thing they go to. It's like, oh no, man, that's Bammer. So it feels good, man. You know, to be a part of this culture and create something and say that, you know, we did that, we created that. You know, it's a blessing.
And I also saw something as well that, you know, you actually knew San Quinn back when he was like 13 or 14 years old, and he was actually like just breaking out as an artist. Like, when you first heard San Quinn actually perform a rap joint, did you think San Quinn would be as big as he actually is today?
Oh yeah, San Quinn, and I thought he would be even bigger because him and Hitman was always my favorite rappers. I was like, as soon as I heard San Quinn, when I went to the studio, I think he was about 13 or something like that, 12, 13. I couldn't believe his vocal tone, his voice was just raw. You know, I was over there at the studio when this is when we made Frisco Niggas Ain't No Punk with JT the Bigger Figure, man. I went over there at Gigolo G's studio, and he was just like, yeah, man, my young comrade, man, he raw, he gonna be he the one up next, man. And I was like, what? He played a couple songs. I was like, what? I'm like, he how old? I just couldn't believe it. Quinn was raw, an instant fan. I became an instant fan. And then we got on that track together. I was like, man, he made everybody have to step their shit up. He was so hot. He made everybody have to go back to the drawing board. Quinn ate everybody up on that track. I ain't gonna lie, he was the youngest one, and he got on there hungry. You know what I mean? And I knew it was gonna happen. Him and Hitman was always just young and just gifted to me, you know what I mean? They always was my top. I never put them in no certain order, you know. Of course, I'm biased to go with Hitman over San Quinn, but they both were just so raw to me. So yeah, man, I knew Quinn was gonna blow up. You know, I thought he'd be even bigger by now. You know what I mean? You know, I guess he went through certain things and certain trials and tribulations that halted his career, but he definitely, man, is one of the best out of Frisco.
And also, as well, aside from the RBL Posse, you actually did a lot of production work as well, and I noticed one of the most notable ones is actually Rappin' Forte, which you actually did a lot of his production throughout the 90s. I was wondering, what was it like actually working with Rappin' Forte? And of course, what was it like just like actually being in the studio with him?
Yeah, that was my guy. You know, he was from San Quentin side of the city. He's from Fillmore, and his mom stayed over there at Hunters Point. Forte used to always come down on our block. You know, that was like my big bro. He you know, I'm the one that helped him get his deal with Ragtop Records. You know, I'm the one putting him in touch with Fly and Guy and their older brother, Frankie J. You know, a lot of people don't know that, but I'm the one that actually made that happen. You know, to help his career take off. You know, he used to come down, and I actually could have, if I'd have had a label, I could have probably had Forte. You know, that's how close we was. We was real tight. And, yeah, when he got out the penitentiary, I ended up coming flying down and like, man, y'all need to get with Forte and get him over there with Frankie J and actually get him in the studio, man. You know, he hot because he'd get over there and he'd just bust freestyles, beatbox, and we just be over there amazed, like, man, Forte is raw, man. All he needs is just a shot. And yeah, it was love being around folks. He'd always come to my studio in the neighborhood. He'd pull up just out of nowhere, get on there, rap, and take off. And I probably won't sing for a couple weeks, couple months. And he'd pop back up again and show me some love. You know, we'd do a few songs. And once he got with Frankie J, I was one of the first people. He was like, "Yeah, I got to go see Black about some beats." You know, like I said, my first love was just doing beats, and the rapping was second. You know, it wasn't like with Mr. C and them. They first love was rapping. Mine was making beats back then. And yeah, Forte made sure he came to see me pretty much on every album. You know what I mean? Some made albums, some didn't make it. You know what I mean? We got a bunch of unheard songs that we did together that never got released. And that was, I think he probably put some out on a couple compilations, I think. But yeah, we did a lot of music together, man. That's like Big Bro right there. I mean, that's real family. Love him to death.
And I gotta say, man, the production work that you actually did was absolutely phenomenal, man. Like, I don't know, like, I really hope that, you know, yourself and Rappin' Forte actually put in some fresh work come 2021.
Yeah, hopefully I might reach out to him. I know he out here in the desk, though. He been doing his thing, laying low. You know, I'm gonna have to dust him off and get him back in the studio and come have him do it. We got about 2 or 3. One song came out and leaked by one of his old managers that we did. It was me, him, and Cocaine on it. And he ended up releasing it, but I was supposed to use that on this upcoming album, but the guy ended up releasing it behind me and Forte back. But yeah, I'm thinking about probably reaching out to Fall. I might end up getting him on some stuff before the album drops. I got a couple more songs I got to knock out, but now that you mention him, I think I might try to reach out to him and get something going. But yeah, we always, as soon as we get together, we hit the lab and make some music, man. That'd be the first thing we do. It's just, you know, we just have fun with it, you know. So I'm definitely looking forward to working with him again.
And also, jumping ahead a little bit, I also noticed that you started your own production company, actually called Right Way Productions. I was wondering if you can tell us a bit more about that. And of course, like, what services do you actually offer to the general public?
Right now, nothing. I kind of shut down as far as doing it. It just wasn't enough money in it for me because all these new programs came out where everybody, you know, you can get Reasons, Fruity Loops, Pro Tools, Logic, whatever it is, Cubase, and just do everything yourself at home. So once that happened, you know, I kind of shut down. I did used to have a public studio where people come in and book some studio time. You know, I help, you know, maybe mentor you a little bit, help you maybe do some beats. You know, like I say, studio time, had a production team on deck for people. But I ended up stopping that. But the Right Way Productions actually was my production company for my beat making. Then I ended up turning it into a label. And I put out, you know, a bunch of projects from Hitman, like I said, Hitman. I had NOH Mafia, Military Minded. I put out Prime Minister. I did me and Tay to Tay album, Tay to Tay from 11-5. We got together, did a Prime Factors album. And yeah, I just did a bunch of group albums, and then I also released a lot of my solo stuff here. I released like about 4 solo albums. So yeah, that's what it basically ended up turning into. But it started off as my music production company, and then later on developed and turned into a label. And right now, it's just pretty much just sitting on ice. I ain't really did nothing with it. I got Right Way Digital going. I just released my other guys did an album called Duo Creek, Young Shot, and Taylor Dine. We just put that out. That just released like about 2 weeks ago. Yeah, so it just dropped 2 weeks ago. We just released some music for that. And I just dropped Hitman final album that he had. I've been sitting on that for years. I wasn't going to release it, but for his 25th anniversary, they're releasing that in December for the 25th anniversary. So, yeah, we released the animated video on the Right Way. So, yeah, that's really all I'm doing now. I just switched over to Right Way Digital now, so I'm just kind of doing that. I got a a digital deal through Empire Records down here. So Gavi and them, shout out to Gavi and them over at Empire. You know, I was one of the first ones to actually do a deal with him some years back, and the relationship been sweet. So right now it done converted over to digital, and yeah, I might put out other projects as far as other groups, but right now I'm just focused on me getting my stuff going on, and yeah, that's pretty much it.
And also, Black Sea, I have to ask, like, other than your documentary, your book, and of course, man, like, you know, the projects that you're working on right now, man, like, what is actually next for you? Is there anything we happen to miss during this interview? Anything else you still want to talk about or promote while we stop you here live on the Canadian airwaves?
Yeah, you know, I'm got my merchandise stuff going on. You know, people want to check out some of our Bammer No Bammer gear. We got the Bluebird gear. You know, the RBL gear. You know, I got to re-up on a lot of stuff that's been selling out. Been doing real good, but they can get me at RBLPosse.com and go to the store, and or they can just go straight to the store at www.rblposse.bigcartel.com. And also, I'm doing a joint venture. We got our own cannabis line coming out with Buddy Buddy Indoor Natural. And we got the Ruthless line coming out. It's got some Ruthless GMO, some garlic mushroom onion cookies. And we also got the Ruthless Runts, the 2 strands. And we're working on a strand right now called Ruthless 92, which is the year we came out. So it's the Ruthless 92 OG. So that's what I'm doing, just trying to tap into this cannabis. You know, it's better late than never. We kind of got in on a late freight, but, you know, we trying to do our thing and put our No Bammer stamp on it, and strictly gas, you know, No Bammer. And, yeah, that's basically what I've been doing lately, man. Just, you know, just trying to venture out besides the licensing deals I've been doing also, you know, with movies and skateboard companies, Thrasher. We just did something with Thrasher. You know, licensed a couple songs to them for their docs and stuff like that. So, yeah, we've been pretty busy, man. I've been blessed to be able to, you know, still be active after losing, you know, 2 of our you know, front runners are, you know, Mr. C and Hitman, man. It's still been, you know, been busy with shows, been busy with merchandise, been busy with getting these licensing deals going on. So it's been real sweet. And, yeah, like I said, you know, if they want to stay updated, you know, just hit us up on IG at RBL Posse.
And I just want to say first and foremost, Black Sea, you know, I know it was many years ago, but I still want to say my sincere condolences to yourself and your partners, man. Those incidents should have never happened, and they most definitely are looking down on you, happy for everything you're doing for their careers and legacies, man. I just wanted to say my sincere condolences to you.
Appreciate it, man. Appreciate that.
But I gotta say, Black Sea, thank you so much for just taking some time out of your busy evening and just coming on 97.7 Outlaw Radio FM. I've been a fan for a long time. Again, thank you for years of amazing music, but most of all, just thank you so much for giving us a little bit of your time this evening.
No problem, man. Anytime, you know, not to do this again before the book release.
Hey, most definitely. We're connected on IG, so whenever you're ready, shoot me a DM, because I do know that I only touched base on a sliver of your career, so I know there's much more out there that we could actually talk about. So whenever you're ready, feel free to hit me up, and we can make that a reality.
For sure, we definitely gonna make that happen, man. And shout out to my girl Carmen too, Miss Barry 411 for, you know, making things happen. You know, I'm seeing her there reposting the interview and everything. So much love to her too.
Most definitely. Big, huge shout out to Miss Bay. Thank you so much, Black Sea, and most definitely have yourself a wonderful Sunday out there in California.
Okay, you too, man. Much love.